Your heart rate is climbing, your pace hasn't changed, and nothing hurts, yet something is clearly wrong. What if running faster didn't make you stronger, but quietly shrank the very engine you depend on? Think back to your last long run, not the one that completely fell apart, but the one that started perfectly. For me, it was quiet. Early morning, flat road, I locked into an easy pace I'd run hundreds of times before. My breathing was calm, my legs felt smooth, my watch showed exactly what I wanted to see. 6 minutes per kilometer, heart rate steady at 140, controlled, effortless, almost reassuring. And then, without warning, something began to unravel. 40 minutes in, I glanced at my watch again. Same pace, same rhythm, but my heart rate had climbed to 150. A few minutes later, 155, then higher. My body hadn't asked for more, yet my heart was acting like it was under attack. That moment shook me, not because it hurt, but because it didn't make sense. I wasn't pushing, I wasn't tired, I wasn't racing anyone. So why did my heart feel like it was panicking? That question stayed with me long after the run ended. It whispered something unsettling. What if the problem wasn't my fitness, but what my heart had slowly become without me realizing it? Before we go any further, welcome. If you care about running smarter, understanding your body, and avoiding the mistakes that silently hold you back, make sure to subscribe to this channel. It's the best way to support this work, and make sure you don't miss what's coming next. By the end of this video, you may realize that running faster has been shrinking the very engine you depend on. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. That question sent me backward, not forward, back into the way I had always believed progress was supposed to work. Like most runners, I grew up inside a simple equation. If you want to improve, you push harder. You run faster. You stack intervals. You turn ordinary runs into something that feels demanding because effort feels honest. Effort feels earned. And I bought into that completely. I took pride in being the runner who didn't back off. My easy days weren't really easy. My moderate runs sat in that comfortably hard space where you feel productive but never quite fresh. When my watch suggested slowing down, I ignored it. I told myself my heart would adapt if I just kept applying pressure. On paper, everything looked right. The workouts were sharp. The numbers trended upward. There was always that small rush of confidence after a hard session. The feeling that I was doing what others wouldn't. But underneath that confidence, something quieter was happening. My long runs kept demanding more effort for the same pace. Recovery felt heavier, and no matter how disciplined I was, my endurance refused to move forward. I didn't question the system. I questioned myself. What I couldn't see yet was that I wasn't lacking commitment. I was building strength in a way that slowly worked against the very thing I wanted most. That quiet frustration eventually pushed me to stop blaming my discipline and start questioning the mechanics behind what I was feeling. I remember the first time I came across the term cardiac drift. It wasn't in a motivational video or a training plan. It showed up buried in an explanation about why heart rate refuses to stay still during long efforts. At first, it sounded abstract, almost clinical. But the more I read, the more uncomfortable it became, because it described my runs with unsettling precision. Cardiac drift meant that even when the pace stays constant, the heart rate can slowly rise, not because you're pushing harder, but because the heart is struggling to maintain the same output. That idea stopped me. I had always assumed rising heart rate meant rising effort. This suggested something else entirely, that my heart was compensating for a limitation I couldn't feel in my legs or lungs. I started replaying my long runs in my head. The smooth beginnings, the creeping tension, the sense that my body was asking for help long before it reached exhaustion. It wasn't fatigue in the way I understood it. It felt more like instability, like something fundamental was slipping. For the first time, I wondered if my heart wasn't failing, but signaling that it had been trained for the wrong kind of work. Once I stopped seeing cardiac drift as a flaw and started seeing it as a message, everything began to reorganize in my mind. The idea that finally unlocked it wasn't complex science. It was a simple comparison that felt almost too obvious once I heard it. I was told to imagine filling a bathtub, and for some reason, that image stayed with me longer than any data ever had. If you try to move water using a tiny cup, you have no choice but to move frantically. Your speed has to compensate for what the container lacks. But if you use a large bucket, the movement slows down. The effort becomes quiet, efficient, controlled. That was the first time I understood my heart in practical terms. I hadn't built a heart that could hold more blood. I had built one that needed to beat faster to make up the difference. Strong walls, limited space, a heart trained to react, not endure. And suddenly, my rising heart rate during steady runs stopped feeling mysterious. It was doing exactly what it had been trained to do. That realization hit harder than I expected. It meant I wasn't weak and I wasn't lazy, but it also meant I had been chasing the wrong adaptation for years. I didn't need my heart to work harder. I needed it to work bigger. That thought kept circling in my head, and it forced me to ask a deeper question. How does a heart actually become bigger in the first place? What surprised me most was how physical the answer was. Not motivational, not psychological, mechanical. The heart doesn't remodel itself because you try harder. It remodels itself because it's stretched, beat after beat, under the right conditions. I came across the Frank Starling principle, and for the first time, physiology stopped feeling abstract and started feeling personal. I began to picture my heart like a water balloon. If you fill it quickly and empty it just as fast, it stays stiff. It never changes shape. But if you fill it slowly and let it sit full for a moment, the material starts to give. Over time, that stretch becomes permanent. The balloon doesn't resist anymore. It adapts. That's what low heart rates do. They create time. Time between beats. Time for the ventricle to fill completely. Time for blood to press outward against the walls. And over months, not days, that pressure quietly reshapes the heart. That's also when I understood why my favorite pace, that comfortably hard zone, had been betraying me. My heart was beating too fast to ever fill fully. I was working, sweating, feeling productive, but skipping the very stimulus that creates endurance. For the first time, running slowly didn't feel like holding back. It felt like finally speaking the heart's language. Once I understood that the heart adapts to how it's loaded, not just how hard, another uncomfortable truth surfaced. I had been training my heart the way people train muscles in a gym. Short bursts, constant tension, repeated strain. And just like a muscle under that kind of stress, my heart had responded by thickening its walls inward. Stronger, yes, but also tighter, more rigid, less spacious. This is what's often called a bodybuilder's heart, and the name fits uncomfortably well. There's nothing inherently wrong with that adaptation. It's useful for power, for pressure, for short, intense efforts. But endurance asks a different question. It doesn't ask how forcefully the heart can contract. It asks how much blood it can move calmly over hours. I started to see myself in people I'd never questioned before. Fit-looking athletes who seemed powerful but lost their breath quickly once the effort dragged on. Engines with horsepower but fuel lines that couldn't keep up. And I realized I had been proud of the wrong signals. I chased the feeling of effort, not the result of efficiency. What finally landed for me was this. Pressure builds strength, but volume builds durability. I had spent years adding pressure, assuming volume would follow. Instead, I had crowded the space my endurance depended on. And that's when it became clear. If I wanted to run far without falling apart, I had to stop bodybuilding my heart and start giving it room to expand. That realization left me with one more problem. Understanding the idea wasn't enough. I needed proof. I didn't want another theory to believe in. I wanted something that would tell me, honestly, where I stood. That's when I tried the simplest test I'd ever used. No lab, no formulas, just a flat road and an honest pace. I ran for 1 full hour without changing speed. No surges, no pushing, just steady movement. Then I compared 2 moments, my heart rate at minute 10 and my heart rate at minute 60. The result felt strangely exposing. If the numbers stayed close, it meant my heart could maintain its output without panic. If they drifted apart, it meant my heart was compensating, beating faster because it couldn't move enough blood per beat. When I saw my own drift, I didn't feel judged. I felt oriented. For the first time, I wasn't guessing or blaming effort. I had a clear signal, quietly telling me whether my heart had space or whether it was still working from a cup instead of a bucket. Seeing that signal forced me to face a truth I had been avoiding. There was no fast way out of this. You can't rush structural change. You can't negotiate with it. The heart doesn't respond to ambition or impatience, only to repetition under the right conditions. What that meant, in practical terms, was months of running that looked unremarkable from the outside. Slower paces, lower heart rates, days that felt almost too easy to count as training. And that was the hardest part. There was no daily confirmation that it was working. No satisfying burn, no visible progress to celebrate. Just the quiet discipline of showing up and trusting that something unseen was taking shape. I had to let go of the urge to prove myself on every run, and that felt like losing a piece of my identity. But gradually, my relationship with running changed. Each easy run stopped being a test and became an investment. I wasn't chasing fatigue anymore. I was creating space. And somewhere in that boredom, patience replaced frustration, and confidence began to grow without needing constant validation. That patience didn't pay off all at once. It revealed itself quietly, almost when I wasn't looking. One day, I settled into a pace that used to feel demanding, the kind that once came with tight breathing and a rising sense of effort. Nothing about the run felt special. No adrenaline, no expectation. I was just moving. Out of habit, I checked my watch. The number staring back at me didn't make sense at first. My heart rate was lower than it had ever been at that speed. Not by a dramatic amount, but enough to stop me mid-thought. The effort felt smooth, unforced, almost calm. The tension I used to brace for never arrived. For a moment, it felt like I had broken some rule of physics, like I had unlocked something unfair. But it wasn't magic. It was structure finally catching up to intent. The space I had spent months building was now doing its job, quietly carrying the load I used to force. And in that moment, I understood that endurance isn't about suffering less. It's about needing less effort to do the same work. That moment didn't feel like a finish line. It felt like an invitation. If any part of this story sounds familiar, I want you to hear this clearly. Nothing is wrong with you. You don't lack discipline, toughness, or desire. In many cases, the issue isn't effort, it's direction. Endurance doesn't come from forcing the body to do more, but from giving it the structure it needs to do the same work with less strain. Before chasing speed, there's value in asking a quieter question. Does your heart have space? Space to fill. Space to stay calm. Space to carry you when the miles stack up. Because speed without capacity is fragile, and it always shows up when you least want it to. If you want to keep exploring this way of thinking, training that respects biology instead of fighting it, consider subscribing to the channel on it. It helps this work continue and lets us keep having these conversations together. Build the bucket first. Then earn the speed. I'm not ahead of you. I'm walking the same road, just learning how to listen more closely along the way. At its core, this story isn't really about running faster or heart rate numbers. It's about learning the difference between effort and progress. Many of us push harder because we believe struggle equals growth. Yet real, lasting change often comes from patience, structure, and listening instead of forcing. When you give your body or your life the right conditions, it adapts quietly, sustainably, and powerfully. The lesson here is simple but uncomfortable. Before demanding more results, ask whether you've built enough capacity to hold them. Apply this by slowing down where needed, building foundations first, and trusting long-term processes over short-term validation. Now I'm curious, where in your life do you feel like you're pushing harder instead of building capacity first? Leave your thoughts in the comments so we can learn from each other. And if this resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel to support more thoughtful content like this in the future.